Greetings from Princeton, New Jersey. I'm Guy Hutchinson. This is Pointless Nostalgia. Today, we're here because Indiana Jones was born here in 1899. Now, I'm not talking about Harrison Ford. He's not that old. But Indiana Jones, the character, born fictionally in this town right here. This is a very interesting town. I was born here. I was born at the hospital, which opened in 1929. Indiana Jones would have been born 1899. So the hospital, well, the hospital I was born in was rebuilt at some point. But I was born at the same hospital as Mary Chapin Carpenter, the singer of the song Passionate Kisses. Indiana Jones would have been born at the Jones House, which was shot in Wilmington, Delaware. Not a real Princeton location, but it looks like it.
Now, I was born across the river in New Jersey. That's right. July the 1st, 1899. I was raised in Princeton, where my father was professor of medieval studies.
Because this is what they were going for. This beautiful field, this beautiful town. Very quiet, very wealthy, wonderful old school buildings. We're going to go through, we're going to see some of the spots that they mention that are real life spots that they mention in mostly the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles. A little bit in the movies, a little bit in the books, but mostly Young Indiana Jones Chronicles mentions his time in Princeton because he was here when he was young. A quick overview, Indiana Jones was born here, went to high school here, and came back to teach here. He did not go to school here because he couldn't deal with his dad. We'll learn all about that. We're also going to see some really cool locations. We'll go to Thomas Edison's lab. We're going to see house of a former US president, some cool stuff. This hospital that I mentioned would have been way back that way where I was born. That was where Albert Einstein died, and they stole his brain. They stole Einstein's brain right here in Princeton.
Thomas stole his brain. That's right, he removed Einstein's brain from his head and took it for himself.
Einstein lived, I think, the last 30 years of his life in this town. Very interesting, but yeah, the last final moments of his life, very strange. I'll put the video link in the description. All right, so we're gonna head right now from this general area. He was born somewhere in this small town. We're going to move over to a very specific location that he definitely went to. So we're going to go there right now.
1916 was the year. I was living with my father in Princeton. It was spring, and I was going to take Nancy Stratemeyer to the junior prom in her father's Bugatti.
So this would have been the high school that Indiana Jones went to. I'm going to show you an old picture of it. I'll tell you the history of this building. It's pretty neat. It's right here on Nassau Street. It is owned by the university, I believe, today. Hasn't been a grammar school for many, many years. Was only a high school for a short time, but in storyline, this is where he would have gone to school. Prior to this school being built, the students were all taught at a school called the Model School. It went all the way from kindergarten or whatever up through the top learning year of high school. And it was getting too crowded, so they built this, and they intended to build a high school, which they did build on the other side of town, but that didn't open until 1929. But this opened in 1912 as, at the time, the Princeton Grammar School. Hello. How are you? What's the dog's name?
Tracy.
Tracy? Hi, Tracy.
She's a ceiling.
So this would have been the school in 1916 when the Jones family was living in Princeton that Henry Jones Jr. would have gone to school right in here and would have been courting young Nancy, who was played by Robin Lively, I believe, on Young Indiana Jones Chronicles. Looks like they're doing something with the building, redoing the sidewalk out here and hopefully making it more beautiful. Hopefully this building has some more years left in it. Now the other school's on the other side of town. We did a video there. My mother went to school there. She went there with John Lithgow, who graduated from there. B.B. Newirth, who played Lilith, Frasier's wife on Cheers. She graduated from there, as did all the guys from Blues Traveler. And one of the guys from the Spin Doctors, Blues Traveler started there. I believe the Spin Doctors started, you know, during the high school years of their lead singer. So that school has some great connections to music. That school's on the other side of town. Beautiful old school, built 1929. But this school, built in 1912, briefly housed, you know, for about a decade, housed the high school students here in town. And this would have been it. This would have been where Indiana Jones went to high school. All right, let's go to our next stop.
Rosie, sorry that took so long.
That's all right, Indy.
In 1916, according to the Indiana Jones Chronicles, Indiana Jones was living in Princeton with his father, Henry Jones Sr., and he was going to school and courting a young Nancy Stoudemire. Now, the Stoudemires had a Bugatti car, and Indiana, young Henry Jr., really wanted to take her to the prom. Now, at the time, he worked at a drugstore. Now, the drugstore that they show in the show, not the real one, but this would have been the drugstore, this building behind me. Let me show you this. This is an old building. This used to be a drugstore with a soda fountain, and that's where he worked. This building was built in 1878, still standing today. Looks beautiful. It's owned, I think, by the university newspaper or the town newspaper, but you can see all the beautiful details on it. This was Priest Pharmacy. They had, you know, a soda jerk and a soda fountain, and Indiana Jones worked in one like it. This one's right here on Nassau Street, probably the one he would have worked at. This one opened in the late 1800s, would have been a soda fountain in 1916, which is when he would have been here as a high school student, trying to earn a few bucks, living with his very Scottish father, as he, a Princetonian, went to high school here in Princeton. Here's a shot of what it looked like inside the drugstore 100 years ago. Very different today. Today you can see in the windows here, they have some old pictures of Princeton, but certainly time has changed. This building does not look like it once did. They do have a lot of the old pictures, including the ones I showed you, up on the wall here in their window. So I guess they know the history of this building, which is great. Beautiful, beautiful old building. Glad to see it's still standing. It says at one point this was located like half a block away and they moved it to this spot. But that would have been before young Indiana Jones worked here. Yeah, it was the Priest building, and you can see the initials JP there. The Priest family owned this, and they had Priest Pharmacy. So it wasn't a pharmacy where a bunch of priests worked. It was a bunch of people with the name Priest. But yeah, this was probably the private residence, and then this was probably the soda fountain and pharmacy.
The generator, at least it was.
Well, so we'll just get a new one.
Well, all the way from France? There's a war over there, remember?
Well, there must be someone who knows how to fix it.
I doubt it, unless you know a scientific genius.
All right, I'm on the side of a very busy highway in Menlo Park, New Jersey. We're about 25 miles now north of Princeton. I've been here before. I did a video a long time ago, not a very good one, so I don't suggest you look it up. But this rock marks where Thomas Edison had his original location for his factory, his warehouses, all his invention places. They were all here. There's a museum here now and a giant light bulb. And there's this rock. So when they tore it down, I think he moved to East Orange, New Jersey. They put up a rock with a plaque on it. And I love rocks with plaques on it. Ooh, it quieted down. Nice. Thomas Edison was known as the Wizard of Menlo Park. So this town is Menlo Park, New Jersey. It's bordered by Edison, New Jersey, which was named after him. You may remember, if you've seen Mallrats, in the movie Mallrats, the Easter Bunny, the whole beat up of the Easter Bunny happens because the Easter Bunny at the Menlo Park Mall is more convincing. And I did a video about that. You can see that on the channel. Let's take a look at the big rock and see what it looks like. So here's a picture of Thomas Edison. There he is, standing there at his rock. And his rock is right here. It says on this site from 1876 to 1882, about 2 decades before Indiana Jones was born, Thomas Alva Edison began his work of service for the world to illuminate the path of progress and lighten labor for mankind. And this was placed here in May of 1926. So this rock would not have been here when Indiana Jones came here. His actual factory, his labs, they would all have been here. And Thomas Edison in that picture, standing right about here. So I'm gonna stand there and show you the view from there. This is where Thomas Edison would have been standing. So his view would have been this way, although I imagine things were quite a bit quieter back then. I always think of the carousel of progress with Thomas Edison.
Mr. Edison sure added life to our home. Whoa there, you'll blow a fuse. Correct. That's the third one this week. I buy fuses by the case.
Here's a giant light bulb, and then at the very top of this tower, there is another actual working giant light bulb. The museum's over here. This is where Thomas Edison started, right here in this area. So Indiana Jones would have been right here, believe it or not. Let's go back to the rock. It's right around the corner. Well, anyway, his plant, his labs were right here on this spot when Indiana Jones wanted to take Nancy Stoudemire to the prom in the Bugatti, but the car needed parts. It was a foreign car. He came here because a professor that worked at the university also had connections here. And then Indy and Nancy got involved in a whole mystery involving a stolen motor that Thomas Edison created in storyline there. So all of that happened on the grounds here. About 25 minutes, 25 miles, about 45 minutes drive back to Princeton. So a bit of a drive, especially with the older style everything. But anything, Thomas Edison had some kind of electric motor in mind all the way back then, according to the Indiana Jones stories. All right, we're gonna go back to Princeton now. Long drive, we'll go back there and see some more. In the year 1919, Indiana Jones returned to Princeton. He saw Nancy again. He was very excited about it, but he had too much trouble getting along with his dad. So he moved away. He went to attend the University of Chicago, but don't worry, he returns to Princeton. Glad I did. Don't want to stay in Menlo Park. All right, I want to show you this though, because Shia LaBeouf shot Transformers right here.
Father, Archibald Witwicky. Remember? Watch no! Okay, remember how I was telling you? Okay, can you stop? Watch the foot! Watch your foot!
Right now they're doing some construction. I did a video here though, you can go back and watch it, but it was on these stairs where he's walking up and he actually crosses over to that side. He drops his books. He's talking to Megan Fox, and that was right on this staircase. And he goes up here to this building, which is the Princeton Chapel. And you can see this in the background while he talks to her. So he goes right up to the top here. The John Foster Dulles Library of Diplomatic History. I matched up a college photo of Michelle Obama up there. So if you go back and check out that video, I'll link it in the description. But this is a beautiful, beautiful campus. Talked about this statue too, which has a very interesting story.
No, don't disturb him. He doesn't like it. You're Henry Jones? Yes, sir. Great. Job's all yours.
Look at this place. This is one of the university's ornate arches. There's a bunch of them on this road. This is University Place. This is the kind of stuff they always use as establishing shots when there's a movie shot at this or other Ivy League schools. They shot a Bollywood movie here, right up this way. In 1933, Indiana Jones took a teaching job at the university, taught here for just 2 years, then went to teach somewhere else. So I'm not going there, so that's all I'm talking about is this. But Indiana Jones, theoretically, taught for 2 years right at this university.
Next week, Egyptology, starting with the excavation of new craters by Flinders Petrie in 1885. I will be in my office if anybody's got any problems.
Now, his father, Henry Jones Sr., continued to teach at the university until, at least, according to lore, 1938. And the Bollywood movie was right here. I'm going to show you, and we'll put in a clip and watch, because people were dancing right up and down this street. But you'll notice, if you look, this tree here has a curved branch. You can see that in the movie. You can see this male Princetonian newspaper box. You can see this red pipe for the fire department or whatever. But yeah, they were all dancing right here. Take a look. All right, final stop. We're moving on to Hodge Road, connection to Harrison Ford, connection to the President of the United States, Grover Cleveland, and a connection to Indiana Jones. So we're heading there next. Let's go. It's right around the corner, very ritzy, Tony neighborhood. Let's go.
Live from New York City, the National Broadcasting Company presents its 42nd telecast of Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade.
And watch those trees, Bart, but he better get home in time for Thanksgiving dinner.
This is Hodge Road, and behind me would have been the home of Grover Cleveland, former President of the United States, when Indiana Jones was born. Now, Grover Cleveland had been president in storyline at the date of Indiana Jones' birth. He had been president in the real world about 10 years earlier. Then he moved to Princeton. He was from West Caldwell, New Jersey, so he was a New Jersey guy. But he moved to Princeton, lived in this beautiful, beautiful mansion. From this mansion, Grover Cleveland worked for the university as president of the university. He was one of a few presidents to work there, but this was his mansion right here on Hodge Road. Now, Grover Cleveland was also buried here in Princeton, so he's buried in a cemetery not very far away. Princeton Cemetery, I think, is the name of it, so pretty easy to remember. And he's buried there, as well as his daughter Ruth, who was the inspiration for the Candy Baby Ruth, because she was a child born at the White House, and people were very excited about that. Also buried in that cemetery is Aaron Burr, who, if you've ever seen Hamilton, he's the guy who shot Hamilton. So he was also Vice President of the United States. But Grover Cleveland, living in this house when Indiana Jones was born. Now, in 1993, Indiana Jones came back to Princeton in storyline and had dinner with his family right here in Princeton. Now, I don't know if it was a beautiful mansion like this. I don't know how the Joneses were doing at that point.
Cranberry sauce, Harry?
I don't like it, Mom.
Sweetie, you never tried it.
I don't care and I don't like it.
How do you know if you never tried it?
Your mother's right, you know. If you never tried it, you got to keep your mind open.
Now, the other interesting thing about this street, this is a beautiful, very, very wealthy area. And in 2001, the local paper reported that Harrison Ford had been in this area looking for a home, that he had been house shopping here and was very close to buying a house on Hodge Road. So he would have been neighbors with the people that live in Grover Cleveland's former house. Doesn't look like he ever did, because that's the only reference I could find to it, but there were a lot of rumors. There's always rumors that people see him and Callista Flockhart here, so I guess they like to come here maybe certain times of the year. Either way, I hope you enjoyed this. Hope you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, seeing the real locations of Princeton and the fictional locations of Indiana Jones World. Right now, a box is going to pop up here, and one's going to pop up here. You can choose either one. I'm in both of them. I'll see you tomorrow, 2 o'clock. Brand new video right here, Pointless Nostalgia.